In the days when the prophet Elisha walked the land of Israel, the power of God was constantly revealed in both mighty wonders and seemingly small acts of care. The people remembered Elijah, the fiery prophet taken up in a whirlwind, and they now looked to Elisha, his successor, as the living voice of God. Wherever Elisha went, miracles followed. Not only grand displays before kings, but also quiet acts of mercy for ordinary people. One such miracle happened beside the flowing waters of the Jordan River, involving something as simple as a borrowed axe. The community of prophets, often called the sons of the prophets, lived and studied together under Elisha's guidance. Their numbers were growing rapidly. Many men gathered to learn from him about God's law, wisdom, and the ways of righteousness. The place where they lived had become too small for all of them. Crowding made daily life difficult, and so one day they approached their teacher with a request. "Behold now, the place where we dwell with you is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan, and each man take a beam from there, and let us make a place where we may live together." Elisha listened carefully and agreed. "Go," he said, granting them permission. But one of the young men, eager to show respect, added a request of his own. "Please come with your servants." Elisha, a humble man who never distanced himself from those under his care, nodded and answered simply, "I will go." And so the company of prophets, with Elisha among them, set out toward the Jordan River, a place where trees grew thick along the banks, providing perfect beams for their new dwelling. The men were full of energy and purpose. Each took up tools and began to cut down trees. The sound of chopping filled the air as axes struck against wood, and the vision of a new, larger home gave them strength. But among the group was one man who had borrowed his axe. Iron tools in those days were precious and expensive, not easily owned by everyone. To borrow an axe was a sign of trust, but also a responsibility. If anything happened to it, the borrower would owe a debt he might never repay. As he swung his borrowed axe against the trunk of a tree, disaster struck. The axe head flew from the handle, slipped through the air, and with a heavy splash disappeared into the muddy waters of the Jordan. The man gasped in despair. The Jordan was not a clear stream. Its depths were murky, concealing anything dropped into it. He cried out in anguish, "Alas, master," for it was borrowed. His voice carried both fear and shame. Losing the axe head meant more than losing a tool. It meant owing a debt he could not repay, and dishonoring the one who had trusted him. Elisha turned at once, hearing the cry. He did not dismiss the young man's concern as trivial. Instead, he came closer and asked, "Where did it fall?" The young man pointed to the spot where the axe head had vanished beneath the rippling water. To human eyes, the situation was hopeless. Iron does not float, and no diver could hope to find it in the river's muddy depths. Yet Elisha did not hesitate. He trusted in the Lord, who rules over the laws of nature and hears even the smallest cries for help. Elisha cut a stick from a nearby tree. Holding it in his hand, he stepped to the water's edge and threw the stick into the river at the very spot where the axe head had fallen. What happened next left everyone speechless. The iron axe head, which moments before had sunk beyond reach, rose up from the depths. Defying its very nature, it floated to the surface of the Jordan, bobbing gently as if it were a piece of wood. The young man stared in astonishment. Elisha looked at him calmly and said, "Take it up for yourself." With trembling hands, the man reached out and picked the axe head from the water. His borrowed tool was restored, and with it, his peace of mind. This miracle, though simple in form, carried deep meaning. It showed that the God of Israel cared not only for kings and battles, but also for the everyday struggles of ordinary people. To God, no concern was too small, no problem too insignificant. The recovery of a borrowed axe head mattered, because the man's livelihood, honor, and integrity were at stake. Through Elisha, God demonstrated that he listens to the cries of his children, whether they face great dangers or minor troubles. The story also revealed the power of faith. Elisha did not panic or doubt, but calmly trusted in God's ability to act. By throwing a stick into the river, he performed a simple gesture of obedience, leaving the outcome in God's hands. And God answered, showing that his power reaches even into the depths of rivers, even into the impossible laws of nature. For the young prophet, this moment would never be forgotten. Each time he swung that axe, he would remember the day iron floated, and the lesson that God cares for his people.